Hello, my name is David Plylar, and I'm one of the music specialists at the Library of Congress. And it's my great pleasure to be here with Anne-Sophie Mutter and Lambert Orkis, who gave an amazing performance last night of music by Mozart, Schubert, Kreisler, and more. So I'm so pleased to have them with me today to look at some of our holdings from the Kreisler collection and other collections at the Library of Congress. So welcome.
Thank you very much, David. Wonderful being here. Yeah, and already looking into the Caprice Vinoise. How many versions do we have here?
We have at least 3, and they're in different states of completion in terms of what we have.
Yeah.
But what we're looking at here is the first version, which at least of this orchestral version,
Yes.
that is in pencil, and that's I'm making that assumption because it's in pencil, and the other version that we have is in pen. So, and there's some little notes on it that I think are worth pointing out.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that a bit more clearly. And that's that orchestrational note.
Celesta.
Yeah, it says celesta. So we should put that in there somewhere, is what he's presumably saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the instrumentation right there is overall a clarinet.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's celesta
Yeah.
meaning...
That's a note to himself, I think, that he wants to change it. And so if we look at that same moment.
Yeah,
And
okay.
now it's
Over
doubled.
clarinet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it really nasty.
Yes.
Oh.
Imagine it would be something like 3 against 5, or to make it
Well, that
totally messy.
But that makes it, the mess is built in, but this has a certain degree of precision. So what you do, since I'm, also that's part of one of my other hats, orchestral keyboardist, I listen for the winds. Because I don't think you're going to listen to me. For me, there's too much separation.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to key in, watch the conductor, and try to split the difference between what I see and what I hear, and just fit that in.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's interesting that in that manuscript of the piano version of this, it's in triplets.
Well, let's take a look at that just so people can see that, side by side. I'll put this one back here.
And which version is earlier? The one with the triplets is the earlier one?
I don't know that. These ones are dated 1912.
Okay, both.
I believe so. Yeah, they seem to be right
Interesting.
one after each other.
Yeah.
But this one is not dated.
Not dated.
Ah,
Here's the triplets, you
yes,
see?
yeah.
The piano
Yeah.
version.
But that one, that treats it a little bit more.
Yeah, but you see, these are all these questions which are unanswerable, because if the composer doesn't leave traces.
I have a feeling a Kreisler scholar would probably say, well, it's obvious if they would dig through our stuff and find those answers, perhaps.
Okay.
'Cause I don't as knowledgeable as they would be. But one thing I would note that is interesting in Kreisler's case is that he was also a decent pianist as well. And so he had a lot of experience doing alternative versions.
Yes.
And like he did the Sibelius Concerto and a piano reduction for that. And so there's, I don't know what level he was at in terms of whether he thought that those were easy to pull off or whether he was being, just imagining.
Or maybe it's just a musical decision as well, because it renders things in a more lyrical,
And he doesn't
laid
have
back.
Doesn't have the grace note. Here. Over here in the orchestra version, there's a little grace note in the celeste part and the... Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think
questions over questions.
Yeah, the other thing I thought was just looking. There's some of these little snippets that were cut out of just orchestrational changes that presumably were being made to one of these manuscripts, and there's the out.
Celeste out. Ah.
So maybe
I see.
maybe the final version is that.
wrestled with that passage. Now we know.
Well,
you are in good company.
Heifetz was also a skilled pianist. And here's the thing, both the Kreisler versions of things and the Heifetz, I find, okay, they were skilled pianists, but I find it oftentimes rather awkward.
Sure.
For whatever reason, maybe it's length of fingers or width, I don't know.
Not being really a pianist, getting around it, but
We have, what's interesting is we have a Heifetz collection as well, where we have a lot of materials.
Yep.
And we can
Of
look
his
at those
arrangements.
next to each other. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, why don't I pull out a few more Kreisler items?
Yes,
just so
absolutely.
we can
Yep.
take a look, just because there's
really
so much
Also,
material.
Liebeslied. Do you have some of his cadenzas?
I believe we do. I didn't bring those with me
Yeah,
today.
that's okay.
But,
That's okay. But yeah, they are quite, holding up well. If you consider how many contemporary composers have written great cadenzas as well for Beethoven and
Sure.
Brahms, but his stylistic approach and kind of summing it up in a way which is informative but not disrupting the pieces seems to be still on point, at least to my understanding. So there we are again. Yeah, there's the grace note. I like that one. Yep.
yeah, because that wouldn't be a big deal for the winds.
No.
Yeah.
And maybe the out is because it got to be
Messy
messy.
without end. Yeah.
Nice party.
In honor of the fantasy that you played last night, the Schubert fantasy, I thought I'd show you an early.
Oh, the famous Joseph Hensberger.
This is the So this is the fantasy that that Kreisler wrote in 1883 when he was 8, and this dedicated to his teacher. And you'll be astounded. It's got this wonderful front page, and then you'll be astounded by the handwriting. So go ahead and turn.
No.
Oh my heavens. That is, that is so beautiful.
Wow.
That is so precise.
I got 8 years.
And I love this manuscript paper too. That was something that's you occasionally
it's
find
like
that
a
is
poetry album, you know.
I wonder why he didn't continue the stems down to the beam. Oh,
Specific style of writing.
but he does in other places. I wonder if there's meaning behind that. You see, there's...
Or maybe not, maybe it's like with Andre, who always used to say when I complained about the lack of information in his handwritten scores, he would say, a good musician knows what to do.
But then again, you have something like Beethoven, A major opus 69, in which there's this run. And normally a fast kind of improvised run would be written with small notes, but it's really spread out. Is there a meaning behind that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, did he put, like sometimes
Things like that.
in the Mozart sonatas, when he didn't write out the piano part and had to fill it in later?
Oh, yeah.
But you have all these different size bars, and sometimes it just happens
Now
without
here's
any...
your run.
Yeah.
And notice that it's not coming down to the beam. I just
I
wonder
think it's a
if
little
that
bit
is
of laziness
significant.
too.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just
to-
beautiful. It's very
yeah.
light-handed, like
Yeah.
his playing.
Yeah.
It's a very light right hand
Just
approach.
seeing that, I would approach it lightly because it just doesn't seem complete. But
Yeah, but if you hear him play, there's a certain suppleness and kind of...
There's a little bit of whimsy.
He's 8. This is just
8 years old.
amazing.
Unbelievable.
And this must have been recorded, no?
I'm not sure. I believe it's still unpublished, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Okay. That would be a plan for my next visit.
Yeah, definitely.
Bring the early works. More. Very charming.
So here's an interesting case where you have 1941, and so this is a different orchestral version, ostensibly, of the Liebeslied.
Uses harp. Oh, that must be very nice.
I think that one of the things that this illustrates is that even as late as 1960, he's still, fooling around with it and making some different, changes and trying out some different orchestrations, trying out some different, ways to put it together. I think that there's an element of, to me, it makes me think of an improviser. Or,
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice touch using the harp to the harmonic support.
Yeah, but this is, you know, with your rolled chords, and yeah, it has very much of that character. Yeah. Very beautiful.
I thought we could look at two more, just in keeping with getting through things that we have here quickly. Two more examples of types of works that he would do, and one is a transcription. That is a Schubert transcription. In this case, of the G flat major impromptu, Opus 90, number 3. And this is one of the things I'd love to hear your thoughts on. It's an A flat, right? I think.
Oh my heavens!
Do we know if he played it himself?
I
Or
don't
is it
know.
for his own? Okay.
I would assume so at some point, but
So it wasn't necessarily written for someone we know of, a friend, a colleague.
I'm
he
not sure
admired.
what this case.
Okay. And from when is that?
Let's see if it has the date on there. No, that's just when the gift was
Mm-hmm.
in that case. But
So I wonder if he has gone more into piano playing after
33
the
or 30.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, 33.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see that the stems and that
There's
it's
a lot
just
of
it's
doubling on this. It seems like the violin part just overlaid on the original piano part.
old style Mozart.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, like a lot of vocal works where they would write so that the melody is always there, which
Yeah.
we suppress
And
as long as the
the
singer
violin
is.
has the kind of icing on the cake,
Yeah, yeah.
like that.
Well, this is one. You know, this is one of the famous impromptus. Just that quiet, meditative quality to it. It's interesting that
is perfect for the violin.
he did it in 4 flats. Can I see the beginning again?
sure. And that was a question that came to mind: is does that? I mean, yes, G flat is a scary key, I would imagine. But does A flat make it significantly easier from the violinist perspective, or would it be better to be
that's a
in
good question.
an A major or something like that, or which would be harder for the pianist probably? But
Sonority-wise, maybe. Maybe that could be a reason. I mean, if you look into violin literature, we know that Dvorak's violin concerto uses, we have always tried to use a lot of open strings, so we would use keys which would favor that, just to give it more of a ring. So possibly,
A flat
you know.
major would be a little bit brighter on the piano. G flat is a little darker.
Dark, yeah,
You know,
which
that
changes the
one's-
entire character quite
No.
a bit. But maybe, you know, it's more sweeter, brilliant for the violin.
Oftentimes, when one is considering keys at this period, is what piano was being used.
I would think that it's violin-driven, the
Yeah.
decision. Sonority
think
and
so.
violin-driven, yeah.
That's a pretty good stretch. And that also, when the keyboard plays, it's this weird interface of the black key, which is much smaller and higher than the white keys. And anytime you transpose or go to another key, oftentimes it's the same material, but
Different landscape.
different
Yeah,
landscape.
really, can be really bad.
And I didn't think to check this before, but there's also lots of there's places where there's double flats and things like that in the original, and so I'm curious if you treated them the same. He may not have, just to make it easier to navigate. But
See, I'm trying to think whether on the original, that's a rolled chord. I just don't remember
I don't think so. But yeah,
because I don't think. No, I
it's
don't
just,
think
it's
I
just
could
within
reach
the
that.
compass of an octave, isn't it? I think, yeah.
Well, this is F to an E flat,
Right.
so that
Da, bam.
yeah.
Das ist eine Dezime, no? Yeah.
So those little kind of details become interesting.
I think it was just G flat and D flat in the left hand, just a dyad, and actually
there?
not a triad. If I have to
Yeah.
remember.
But then again, I spent many, many years in the period instrument movement down the block,
Sure.
you know, at the Smithsonian, and you're encouraged to do a lot more rolling chords.
Well, this is just, again, one of those examples. It's interesting to see how violinists handle these sorts of questions.
To
and,
their
and it seemed like a lot of them were for personal use. Like, I wonder
Yes.
how much, they weren't necessarily intended, although certainly published in many cases, but how much they were
really performed.
other than by the...
But if you look at the diversity and length of his programs, I wouldn't be surprised if he wouldn't just pull, one after the other
Sure.
out of his drawer. Yeah, that would be fascinating to say that.
It's also fascinating. He puts the 4 flats here, but doesn't.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you would continue it.
No, yeah.
But that's also like a convenience thing. It gets, you just, your hand gets tired.
Exactly.
You just want to...
Exactly.
You
So
know
that
what it is,
explains the whole lightness of,
In orchestral writing, oftentimes you just see the 2 strokes and the dots.
Right.
Just repeat this.
Exactly.
Same of the above.
And what's funny is that seems to be like a consistent thing for composers trying to find shortcuts, all through
Yes,
time.
definitely get on with bringing the idea to paper
That's it.
without repeating things
Which
we
goes
already
to
know.
Andre's thing, and good
Exactly.
musicians will figure it out.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
so
Yeah.
true.
It's not suddenly in C major.
Though some people would do it.
This next one's a bit of a I don't know as much about it, but I know that you played it and recorded it actually. This is the Kreisler arrangement of the Schumann Fantasy, Opus 131. At least I believe you played it. Recorded it. It was on the 1997 disc with the Brahms.
True, yes.
Violin concerto.
That's precisely the short piece I spoke about, which I had only played 1 or 2 times in my life. Because we had to look at the list of my recordings, our recordings together also. And I mentioned that sometimes I had performed pieces in the last 50 years, which I have very little recollection.
Oh, sure, sure.
And sadly, this is one of them. Wow. Yeah.
Did we do it?
No, we didn't. I recorded it with Kurt Masur and
Yes.
New York Philharmonic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't
And that's
remember
this
No,
version.
it was the
This is the orchestral version.
It's a very beautiful piece, but totally underplayed.
If you want to put it on here, we can just put it there. That way.
Yeah.
We'll,
Sorry. Yeah, it's.
And he was an advocate of this piece because it fell out of favor for quite some time.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'm always stunned how much more emotional. Not that this lacks emotion, but if you think about a score of Beethoven and that fury, that which I don't know if there's any other composer. I mean, Penderecki was fascinating as well because he had this kind of like a writer's block. He was always composing on already used and scribbled on and painted on paper. So he always needed to have something on the paper in order to even start with it.
oh, interesting.
And Gubaidulina used to do drawings of her piece in different colors.
Really?
Yeah, which would signify different registers. She wanted to put her ideas in. So it was like, you could have exhibited her scores as visual art as well. And then you see something like this, which is so beautifully
It's just
composed and just, yeah.
Do we know, did he use sketches at all?
Yes. Yeah, there definitely are.
Did you have sketchbooks?
We have, in this case, I think there might be some. We definitely have collections of sketches related to particular pieces.
Yeah.
So they're a bit not quite collected in, that I can recall at the moment. But yeah, a lot of this is at a practical point where this is here's the version that we're going to
That's it.
move
Use.
forward with.
Yeah.
So that's why they're so clean. And
Yes,
of course,
sure.
Lots of composers have these, the earlier versions of the more interesting ones, of course, because then we get to see all the
Yeah, and particularly to see what their vantage point was, like the Mendelssohn so-called original score, which some people have gone back to, but then there's a reason why he revised the first version.
Right.
And I'm not quite happy about that tendency, particularly of record companies, to go, to dig out the original version.
Right.
It has not been the last word of the composer, and
one of our favorite
think
things
we
is to look at
agree
those.
on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's great to see the printer proofs where they've
Yep.
taken crayon, different colors to make clear that there are all these different changes. And composers like Liszt, this happens all the time, and the changes are happening up until the very last moment.
Yep.
And I mean, this is also happening with Brahms, as we'll look at in just a few minutes. But
Yeah.
this is it's wonderful to kind of
Yeah.
to be aware of that chronology as we're
and
making
see
these
how much
decisions.
struggle is involved, and that it in most cases is like a work in progress. And it's so different how composers treat their pieces. I know that, for example, John Williams, he has, of course, like any other great composer, intensely worked on the second violin concerto, but he has done, over the years in which we have performed it, a lot of revisions in the orchestration. Almost every time we went off stage, he would say, I have an idea, do this and that. And then there is someone like Penderecki, who has extensively written for me over almost a period of 30 years. Once the work was done, it was done.
It was done.
Wow, interesting.
And he would sit there, and I don't know what he thought, but he would not touch the piece again. So I find that fascinating, how different minds deal with the fact that their piece has to stand there for eternity.
Right.
The pressure is on.
And sometimes there are just practical considerations. There's a piece I recorded here in the Library of Congress in the Coolidge Auditorium, George Crumb's Celestial Mechanics for piano, four hands. And there's actually the page turner gets involved with this. So there's a coda, which is 12-tone. It's a stack. The entire staff is the entire height of the page. And it's so complicated that Christopher Kendall, who was the director of the 20th Century Consort at that time, still is, it's 21st Century Consort.
Right.
He was monitoring and giving us advice as we went along. He had to get it really right, he had to come out and conduct the last
interesting.
part.
Oh, I would have needed that for Wittmann's string quartet recently, which I recorded. It's so complex and, rhythmically that, I feel with you.
Now, here's the thing. I was doing this piece with Jim Primash, who unfortunately died young a couple of years ago, and he was an expert at doing the extended keyboard techniques. He had won an award, actually, for doing a Crumb work. And almost every year, we would perform this piece somewhere, somehow. And over time, we got to be very comfortable with that particular problem.
Right.
Even without the conductor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even without the
Yeah,
conductor.
you adapt, you grow. I mean,
The piece is not performed that often, and it's not that often recorded. But I think it was attempted enough times. This is conjecture. George revised it.
Okay.
And we're so used to the original version. I don't like the revision.
Also when I did the recording of Penderecki's Second Violin Concerto, which the great composer was conducting himself, there were moments when he would disappear in his room and rewrite some passages because he had to conduct them. And so, there are always reasons why pieces end up the way they end up.
Yes.
And practicality is part of it because
Yeah.
it needs to be performed, and sometimes by changing a meter, it doesn't necessarily hurt the piece, really.
Right.
But it makes it, Jörg Wittmann, who's a genius composer, he likes to be like Anton Webern, very meticulous about every single 16th note. You would have, an instruction over it. And he would write in all sorts of really unorganic meter changes, which in some instances Calando or Accelerando would do the same, but give you less of an headache and make things more musical in the flow. So it's just interesting how both sides have to tango together. The ones who play later, what
Right.
the genius is right, but you have to find a way to make yourself clear and known, but also livable. You know?
Well, One follow-up on the George Crumb side, because we have his papers. Another four-hand piece, but for two pianos, Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist.
What he did was he has basically shape scores where you have a circle, or you have one that's in the shape of an eyeball. But then at the end, he has it written out in normal notation.
Okay.
So that there's the practical side of it. By that point in his life, that was written in the, I think, late 80s.
Well,
yeah.
This is another case where performers influence the composer, because I was involved with the very early performances of Macrocosmos series. I did 1, 2 with the music for Summer Evening. I didn't do 2, but I did 1, 3, and 4. And George liked what I did, so he gifted me a little suite for Christmas. It just came out of the blue, and there it was. But the thing is, he would see me performing Macrocosmos Book 1, and I had snipped a copy, pasted it on the cardboard. So we realized, that's maybe a difficulty.
Well, that's funny. Well, do you want to take a quick look at this? Just that way we'll have it.
Yeah.
We have Franz Schubert's second violin sonata. This was composed in 1816, one of 4 that he produced that year, in a little burst of violin and piano activity. And I just thought we'd pull this just to be able to take a look at it, kind of in light of the major fantasy that came at the end of his life, which is quite a different piece than what this is. But
yeah, that variation movement in the fantasy or on the song base is just... How does it feel to listen to the piece? Because for us, it is always like climbing a mountain until the theme is coming a last time and the violin soars to this moment of...
Transcendent beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love listening to it. It's hard to speak eloquently about it when it's so perfect as it is.
The piece is absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
but it has this struggle. Not only the struggle of the composer, but also the struggle of the players.
Yeah, the technical part is
the
pianos.
And
brutal.
And
brutal.
Giving its singing quality in the fantasy is something which I find really... And then you have, in my variations, you have either the lower voice, which is the melody, or you have the upper. So the wonderful thing is in the repeats, you can kind of, put different light on it. And that makes it such a inventive composition also, because you can look at it from so many different angles in trying to get the melody out in an otherwise rather technical surrounding.
And for pianists, it's okay. There's all kinds of passage workers which are really hard, but having played on a piano similar to what he would have had, you realize that the modern Steinway poses some challenge at the beginning with all those tremolos to try to keep it really quiet. Because on, shall we say, a piano that would have been around in the early 19th century, you have a moderator stop and also a true one accord and the shift going to one string.
Right.
And as a result, those passages can sound, I'd like to say, it sounds like butterfly wings moving.
Yeah.
Or like heart palpitations, which
Steinway,
are almost inaudible.
On the Steinway, it's just a real challenge to figure out, okay, what dampers does this particular piano have?
Right.
And trying to...
Well, I thought you did beautifully. I really...
This piano worked very well. I think maybe it was about the best on this particular tour, actually.
Yeah, it was beautifully mellow, which for the entire program, even for the Respighi. Great bass and...
Nice. You have a nice instrument.
Makes sense. You played, on your performance, you played one of the Mozart sonatas from 1778. And so I thought we'd share our G major sonata, which is from 1781, so a few years later.
Oh, wow.
This one, which, now I forget my source, supposedly wrote this piece in 1 hour, between 11 o'clock and midnight.
That's a little bit hard to believe, just because of the amount of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Just the effort of writing it. Like if you tried to copy a page, it would take an hour.
Apparently he was angry at his father and the loss of the archbishop. And
what's new?
This is, but the coda to the first movement, there is this, oh man, the tension in this.
Yep.
And I do
Wow,
like
that
you
is
can
a treasure.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
It's nice that you can see some of the. It's not the perfect Mozart, stereotype
Yes,
that we have.
absolutely not. Yep, yep.
Look at that. Look, just how that looks image-wise.
Yep, but how free his.
Can you get to the end of the first movement?
I forgot how virtuosic.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Look at that. Look how he's
Yeah. Yeah, and then you wonder what he wrote first, because that's exactly the area where you can see.
That's right. See, the idea of composing in an hour may have been here.
Sure.
Writing it down could have come later.
That's
Yeah.
probably
Because he was so known for
Yeah.
being able to compose away from an instrument.
Or maybe just, performing it like he did with some.
Yep.
Having the violin part written out, but he would kind
That's-
of go
that is-
about and write
that
it.
is
And that
truly
looks,
squished.
yes.
That's truly
yeah,
squished,
that
yeah.
looks like he has written it after.
And you can see how
Yeah.
spread out the violin part is
Yeah.
in comparison.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. That is a tremendous treasure. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, I'm afraid to. Yeah, I feel
see
like.
it's bending a little bit. I don't want to bend it.
Oh.
Yeah. See,
Yep.
yeah. There's kinds. There's a kind of violence at the end. So that is the end there.
Yep.
I wonder what he. Because look how that. He wrote the violin part first.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's clear.
Yeah.
The way he has crammed the piano part in.
And the detail, the staccatos in the beginning of the piano run, and then the slur.
I remember the time we, in preparation for playing 16 of his sonatas, from the early 301 to, what's the last one? Not 451. That's one of
526.
that's one of our favorites.
The A major, 526.
But 454,
454, the B flat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Written for the
For
Regina.
Regina Strinasaki.
Yeah.
And when we prepared, we went to Mozart's birth house and used. You remember the time? We used some of his instruments and
The Steiner, you
yeah,
had that Steiner violin and the Conrad Graf piano.
Yeah, the Steiner. Yeah. It was just fascinating to learn much more about the fragility of phrasing and the dryness, and also it led us to use rather swift tempi also in the slow movements, just to kind of split the difference between playing with very rich vibrato and a big concert grand, but still finding the kind of musical gestures and crispness of the instruments of his time.
Yeah.
And so it informed my playing quite a bit, and also my more reduced use of vibrato in the Mozart sonatas.
Yeah,
So it is
especially when you're
fascinating to
working
see
with
that,
something
yeah.
like those early pianos, because as soon as you put the vibrato in, it just wipes out the piano
Totally,
because the
totally.
piano does not sustain like a modern piano does.
Yeah.
But I'm just they say that Mozart said his father told him that above all is God, but next to God is Papa. And there's this violence at the end of the first movement. He sounds very angry, but then you turn the page, and it's like he's this little child saying, "Okay, I've had my temper tantrum, and I will be a good son. I'll take care of you, Dad, in your retirement." There's just something so touching about it, the contrast. And
Yeah, but isn't that, what makes him such such a current and moving
Human
composer,
composer,
because he has this ability to suddenly change into a minor key, and what seemed to be innocently almost funny and gallant turns into a soul-searching moment of great depth.
That's just the
Yeah,
way
it's
it's
just
on
beautiful.
the pages. It's really quite beautiful. For me, it's a very touching thing to play on the piano. That passage.
Let me squeeze in, just to show you a couple more things, and we'll include the Brahms in that. A piece that you may or may not know, but has some elements that may be familiar. And this is one of the few violin and piano pieces by Franz Liszt,
Oh,
La Notte. And this should be familiar in terms of, it's from the Anne de Pèlerinage, the Italy volume, Il Penseroso. And what he does is he takes that kind of famous tune from that first,
wow! I don't know the piece.
and it's it doesn't start there. So it's right here is where that part from the Years of Pilgrimage comes in, and then he uses that to frame a larger work that covers kind of the more Hungarian referential types of things.
Okay.
It's quite an interesting piece, and
Yeah.
he frames it with a quatrain by Michelangelo.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, so he's actually thinking of statuary and how they're looking at it.
Okay.
It's a very kind of a complicated piece, but not many people know that it even exists.
It
so
has been published.
It has been, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And so
Yeah,
a few
I'm not
people
aware of it.
recorded
Yeah.
it, but just throwing it out there for your awareness.
There's this fantasy I have in my life, if I were to redo it all over again. Not that I regret anything I've done, but I do have an affinity for Liszt.
Yes.
There's just something about that. He gets to it unabashedly,
Yes.
you know.
I feel the same way. It's definitely worth coming to check out further.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind.
Because it's
looks
the,
official.
we were looking at Kreisler because it was the sesquicentennial, the 150th birthday, right? Last year we had another 150th birthday, and that was of Arnold Schoenberg.
Oh,
And so I thought you might like to see Verklärte Nacht.
Oh, wow.
oh.
So this is the 1899 sextet version. And one of the great things about this is that you can see as he's going where he's pasted on, in fact, tied on
Yes. Yep. Yep.
his edits and whatnot. And what's interesting is that he does glue it and paste it on in other places.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when was this written? What year?
1899. And we actually have all of Schoenberg's string quartet, but Edward Steuermann, who was his pianist friend who also did a lot of the reductions for him, we also have his collection at the library. And so we have his, for instance, his piano trio version of Verklärte Nacht is here as well. And so it's nice to be able to have these collections that talk to each other in terms of get to go back and forth.
Do you have the Webern arrangement of the Chamber Symphony?
We have a portion of it.
A portion.
Yes, yeah, the Opus 9, yeah.
Yeah. Just I've always loved playing that piece.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely.
Fascinating.
What's this?
Yeah.
I can't get into my head what it is like to be a composer, having to make all these decisions.
And live with them.
And how do you sort out what's in your mind? How do you make that transition to put it on paper?
Baidulina had a wonderful way of explaining how she was composing. So she explained that when she received the idea about a piece, which she was of course planning, didn't come by sheer accident, it would be like something like an Urknall. You know, it would be the piece as such in a whole. Then she would rush, try to write everything down. But in the process of writing, A, musical ideas got lost, and B, she had to realize, which had been very painful for her, that for some of her musical visions, there was not the proper instrument, either because of register or color. And so how she explained it is that what she personally brought on paper was just a mere shadow. So she was a composer who encouraged, I wouldn't say wild interpretation, but encouraged your own thoughts greatly, because she explained that what she had brought to paper was just a shadow of the once gigantic image.
Yeah. It's like
and
a
that reality kind of permitted her only a partial realization. And then it was on us to bring it back to life.
You know, that's kind of like a philosophy that Busoni had, where he saw composition as transcription of this perfect idea that was out there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then so that it was he used this as a defense of transcription, saying, look, if I'm adapting Bach or something like that, you don't have to be. There's still the original, but you know, there's this. It's another type of act of composition and creativity, and so we don't have to get so uptight about it.
Good point.
And back, certainly back in those days, there weren't the recordings and the easy access to a concert. So if you wanted to know how something sounded, I remember the composers at the University of Pennsylvania, Rockberg, Crumb, and Wernick would sit on piano. There's the piano 6-hand arrangements of Mahler symphonies.
Right. Yeah, cool.
That's wonderful.
Who needs to go to the concert? If you have
But it's a
that.
way of learning the piece
Absolutely.
and hearing the piece. And then when the opportunity comes to hear it in the original, how wonderful.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Particularly because orchestration, speaking of Busoni, is a huge skill. Because, I mean, nothing against playing a symphony, you know, for 6 hands, but it totally kills.
Berg. Ooh, okay, go for it.
You are reading my mind. Why I was looking into Schoenberg, who I admire, but can't say that I fell in love with him.
Sure.
The Violin Concerto by Berg, that is, and I'm going to play it in like 3 days.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Oh,
And that is my treasure.
Oh, wow.
It hasn't taken me an incredible amount of time to understand it.
sure.
But when I did, I mean, it's one of the greatest violin concertos ever written. Maybe the last romantic violin concerto, in my sense. And I've been talking about the Berg concerto to Lambert for weeks. The orchestration, how genius it is. The choral in the second movement, and how he reverses it, and then when the horn brings it back at the end, it's just yes.
And every once in a while, you pick up your violin and you.
Yes, try to
Address
practice a
some
little
things,
like this morning. Oh, wow. Yeah, and what a requiem to oneself.
Who was?
Krasner.
Louis Krasner, yeah. Lucky him.
And he's from whom we purchased it. In, I think 1984, something like that.
That recent.
Yeah, late.
Oh.
Yeah, he lived a very long life.
He held on to it.
Yeah, he did. Of course, the famous dedication is always touching. Just the.
It is. And how the piece is kind of divided into these 2 sections of youth and then the battle and take me, it's enough.
A metronome mark.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is relatively slow. And that is a piece where I need to tune very well.
How come?
Empty strings. Da, 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 dee, da, 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 da. So, oh, beautiful. I have to show you the horn passage at the very end, but I have to go for it. It's so beautiful. This is beautiful how that, how we talk to each other. And he is really trying with Haupt- und Nebenstimme to give you a sense of, because the orchestration is so dense, it doesn't look like it, but so much information is exchanged at a given moment that you need a genius conductor, which I had the great fortune. I remember doing it once with Pierre Boulez, with the LSO, but he did something to me which was really borderline difficult. So I came at 9:30, the rehearsal started at 10. He came into my room and said, "Here is a list of the inconsistencies in the Berg violin concerto."
Oh no.
Just looking at it. And I think I got about 80% of it. Obviously, I'm playing it by memory, so that was difficult. But he just went through it and, but that probably is the human factor in the piece, that Berg didn't really totally bend his musical ideas to the rule, the 12 tone.
Well, people used to do that to Schoenberg too, and he would say, well, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
and,
very good.
And there's a video of Boulez talking to Stravinsky and telling Stravinsky what he did wrong. And so I can't remember the source of that video, but it's quite something to see. But I couldn't believe that he did that.
He was very sincere and thought he's doing Berg a favor, cleaning up his mess. I have to go to the chorale. We can't keep you here the entire morning. So, I definitively need to. Yeah, that is the Ländler. Okay. Yeah, that's another great passage. Okay. It's also such a beautiful duet with the winds here. Yeah, you have all these Austrian Ländler at Liszt. The first movement, which evokes such peace and innocence.
Solo, first violin.
Do you see an 8 there, an octava?
No.
Where do you see that? Do you see it?
No?
No.
It's interesting because there exist 2 versions of that beginning. One with the octava. I recorded it without the octava, but then I ran into a version, but that doesn't seem to be really the original. Which goes up an octave, which, if you look at the orchestration, makes perfect sense.
Sure.
Because you are totally buried by the brasses here. So, no, I can't.
I don't see it.
Interesting. Okay, now to the choral.
All right.
Yeah, very good. Here we are. So this, here's the choral. Is it, God, it's enough, take me with you? And of course you are in zeitversetzt. So you have this kind of duet, which is not because they are playing after. You have the choral coming through, also in reversed order. And one of the great moments at the very end is, and then it ends like the beginning, with the same kind of
intervals.
Intervals.
With descending.
Yeah.
There,
as the violin is on the high Schluss des Konzertes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm on the high G up there. The soul is rising. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like in canon form, with the choral and then in the winds, and then the strings are It's just absolutely genius construction. And construction is not the word, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's how it's in content and also shape, architecture, and how the voices are interwoven.
And this is one of those cases where the composer didn't get to hear it, and so he didn't have the opportunity to respond to it.
It would have been interesting to see if he would have added a few more kind of Haupt- and Nebenstimme, or maybe lightened it. But having said that, I think particularly with that program in mind, writing it for the 18-year-old Manon who died of, was it polio?
Polio, I think,
I think the struggle factor of having such a dense orchestration and so much happening, and there's also so much drama and brutal force at the beginning of the second movement, which probably illustrates the diagnosis and having to look at death. If you would have made it easier on the soloist, then you would lose the moment of struggle, which is such an integrally needed aesthetics.
Yeah. Well, why don't we finish up with the Brahms?
Yes.
And we'll,
that is, wow. Poor Dvorak. I think he rewrote the piece 3 times, and Joachim still wouldn't play it.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
come on.
Yes, there was one rehearsal in Berlin with the piece, I think with Joachim, must have been with Joachim, and didn't fly.
Oh.
Yep, dedicated and written to him. Yep.
Well, this is our. We have a luxury here because we have two a score and a part that are directly related to the genesis of Brahms' violin concerto. So the score itself was originating in 1878, and this is eventually the one that we think that Brahms used to conduct it at first. And the first performances of the piece were not terribly successful. but what's interesting is that over the period of time, especially through 1879, there was a back and forth between Joachim and Brahms, and there's 30-something letters where they're talking about the piece and writing little bits and pieces back and forth. And I believe there are 3 parts that were created at the time to help with this process. There was an original one that Brahms did that was mostly of the first movement, and it had some of the final movement in it. We don't have that one. And then there was a secondary part that was created, which we also don't have. But we have the third part that actually was created by Joachim had a copyist make it, and then Brahms encouraged him to work on it and write into it. And so what we have with that part, and I'll even show you just an example of a specific spot that matches. I thought I had to do that.
Thanks for preparing everything so meticulously. Ooh.
So we have the red that we see here.
Yes.
That is the Fritz Simrock's editor.
Oh.
I believe his name was Keller. And so he's putting in, this is to kind of create the final version that's going to be published. Now, there's other types of emendations, and especially ossia passages, even things like Ma non troppo vivace. That was an addition by Joachim to make it so that don't go too fast.
That was Joachim?
Yeah.
I would oppose that.
And so that's the
I
funny
would
thing,
oppose
is
that.
Brahms actually.
And I am actually when I play it. It always feels like, no. So maybe the passage work for Joachim was uncomfortable.
Well, he wrote some ossia passages, and so there's. Well, what's interesting is that Brahms asked him for all this advice, but he didn't always take it. In fact, often didn't.
You shouldn't listen too much to violinists. Might mess up the piece. So that's the
editor.
Yeah, the editor.
Yeah.
And the blue.
But it's using. I believe it's using. Material that's coming from that, because this was also a Stichvorlage. And so.
But that tempo mark is interesting.
But then there's lots of different places, and there have been some people who've written about it, of course, where you have alternatives that are proposed and sometimes accepted, often rejected, but also you can see a development where there are places where Brahms is trusting that instinct to get to a point where it begs the question of whether asking a great violinist or a great interpreter is a good place to start, because if you don't get a bass line that is realistic, then if it can only be played by one person, then you're setting yourself up for few performances.
So the facsimile that the library has put out is this?
It's this one, yes. Yeah.
So always the red markings are the copyist?
I'm not sure that all of them are.
The blue is?
So I'm not sure either. There's some thought that some of the crayon would be Brahms. Some things that are written over would be Brahms.
But it's interesting how he reinforces in a very crucial passage that the fortepiano has to be observed in any of these parts, and that's one of the crucial orchestration-wise really difficult passages where it's good to see that
like they say, they really mean it. Yeah.
Exactly, take it serious.
Yeah.
Da capo, genau. Interesting. Fascinating. I just find it fascinating that much great music has been written because of specific players. Let's say Joachim.
Yeah.
And that has advanced the composer's skills, and it has advanced our skills, because it gets ever more elaborate and demanding. And with I feel, and Lambert has done so much contemporary music, and I feel with my rather modest contemporary music exposure, every contemporary piece has made me a more complete musician. But very often, like with the Wittmann quartet, we all have struggled over a period of years. But it's just beautiful to see that struggle is shared, and that something for future generations is coming out, which heightens,
And in Brahms, in this case, he was a bit insecure about the results, and it wasn't until quite some time later that he felt, that it was. He was always self-effacing, and he was always he was very modest when he would talk about his own music. But at the same time, there were places where he would say, "Is this a piece that we should even bother, keeping around?" And so it's hard to imagine a piece like this having that sort of reaction to.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
The biographies of his are always saying how he shared his scores. He wanted opinions.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about how he sometimes didn't accept the opinion that
still,
the original Opus 8 trio, which which is so different. And then Claris put the kibosh, but he kept it in publication.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. Oh, that is just very, very telling.
Well, we could go on and on and on, but I just want to thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you, David. That has been, you're such an incredibly insightful, wonderfully informed, and fabulous person. I'm very grateful for this morning. It has enriched me and touched me also deeply. It's just, from the Kreisler violin to his pieces, and it's just a wonderful combination. Having these treasure chests, which the instruments are, but then also the intellectual work of these geniuses, which have been here before us and will be here forever.
Yeah. Thank you.